Hello and welcome to the Gooner Fanzine Arsenal Woman podcast. Now, firstly, if you haven't watched myself and Susie Lycett's instant reaction from Sunday evening after Arsenal Women's 4-1 win over Lyon, go and do that. It's 9 minutes long. It was an emotional evening, certainly for Susie, certainly for Daisy and Izzy as well, who have got alongside me now, and for myself, I'd say, up in the press box. So yeah, go and check that out if you haven't already. And if you had, we'll get straight into this. Daisy, I've got to start with you. Izzy, we will come to you, but Daisy, you are up in the stands at the Groove Stadium. There was something quite incredible about how there was a pocket of sunshine coming through that ground, and it was a lovely day in the sort of the southwest of France, southeast of France, sorry. But the only sunshine in the whole of that ground was on the 500 away supporters. It was almost a biblical scene. I had a great view of you all from my press box. You were up high in the gods. Talk me through your day, your trip, and how you're still feeling now.
Oh, I don't even know where to begin, to be honest. You can just see on our faces we're also smug, we're smirking, we can't quite process what's happened, but what an incredible trip. I mean, I thought Madrid was amazing and we lost 2-0 and it was wet and soggy and horrible. And then we go to Lyon and it is quite literally the opposite. I mean, beautiful weather, incredible support, 500 Gooners, 400 travelling, 100 obviously local or nearby to the area, but from the second that the day began, it was just you could just sense that something was building. There was even though we'd lost, I think there was still, like we said, a sense of like optimism of something that was going to be happening. Everything seemed to fall in place. The bar, we was watching the Chelsea game before, obviously, as awful as that sounds, enjoying that and having a little laugh at Chelsea first, which definitely built it to the point where, when we got into that stadium, and even though we was at the very, very top of the stadium, it didn't feel like it to us. It was the closeness between the fans. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen that. Like I've seen a brilliant away support for Arsenal. I've seen it many, many times, but not like that. I think everyone had kind of acted like they knew each other. We were jumping on each other, celebrating. I bought two beers, €7 each, and I didn't drink either of them because they both ended up on the floor or on top of somebody else. So it's just the collectiveness, I think, was another thing altogether. I don't know how loud it was for you, Freddie, at the other side, but we were trying our absolute best from the minute that it started. And we couldn't, also, honestly, you're right, we couldn't believe what was happening at times. Like, it didn't feel real. Obviously, we thought it's going to be a tough game, we're going to struggle, it's going to be tight. And then all of a sudden, you're 4-1, I think we were 4-0 up, weren't we, their goal went in. But anyway, multiple goals scored, and you just can't believe that this was happening, and a team like Lyon as well. So you kind of, I think it's a surreal day, and it's just an incredible. Yeah, I'm kind of speechless in a way, but it's still hard now, a day or two later to even describe what we saw and what happened and how far we've come to get to this point.
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday. I think the fact that Arsenal are in the Champions League final has sunk in. I think the manner in how they did it hasn't. I
Yeah.
think that's what I'm still probably coming to terms with. Looking down at the score in front of me now, Lyon 1, Arsenal 4. Arsenal's last two trips to Lyon have been 5-1 and 4-1 wins. And I honestly think, we're wearing the black kit again, quite a similar kit to the one they did it in before. Quite a few players who were playing and even scored on that night featured. And I really think there were people in that ground who remembered that, whether they were Arsenal or Lyon fans. But I think when the fourth goal goes in, they're really thinking, goodness me, this could happen again, and the ingredients were there because of how remarkably poor Lyon were, and we'll come on to that. Izzy, how would you summarize watching on from home? I know I spoke to Ellen Ellard at halftime, who was doing commentary for TNT Sports, and I said I've just let out a rather incredible noise when Mariona's goal went in, and she said so did I, but on national television. We were all dumbfounded, and Jen Beattie was on commentary with her, and I looked down to Jen at full time, and she was wiping a tear from her eye. It was that emotional night for so many people involved. Manu Zinsberg was in tears, she was on the bench. It was just amazing to watch. Both of you have booked your trips for Lisbon. I think I'm going to be canoeing there at this rate. But Izzy, your experience watching from home, and has it sunk in yet for you as well?
Yeah, I mean, similar to Daisy, watched the Chelsea game before and enjoyed that, and then was just thinking, just feeling so hopeful going into that game, and I just was saying to everyone that would listen, if we score first, like it's evens, all to play for after that, and obviously didn't know what was going to happen. Was quite nervous looking at how Wendy Renard was then starting for Lyon and how much of a threat she can be. But I think just even going back to the first leg, being at the Emirates for that, it didn't feel like a huge loss afterwards. The vibe in the press box and the vibe amongst the players and Rene was quite hopeful and quite like, yeah, we this is what we do. We come back from these things, but it was difficult to have full faith behind it because of how good Lyon are and what form they've been in and how they don't really lose at home and concede many goals. So it was just amazing. I absolutely loved it. The first goal went in. I almost missed Russo's goal after half time. I was looking down, just adding a bit to my match report about no changes at half time, and then I heard all this sort of screaming, and I was looking like 46 seconds in or whatever it was. I couldn't believe it. But yeah, it was very emotional. I had my Sky scanner out ready to book flights to Lisbon by the time the fourth goal went in. I'm quite glad I got on it because I think they've gone up a bit more. But yeah, just what an incredible day for the whole community around Arsenal women, for the club and all the players. And yeah, I particularly thought when Kim Little kind of shed a tear, they panned to her with the camera at the end. And I think it must mean so, so much to her because she's been around for so long and she's such a great leader that, yeah, that was particularly emotional for me, I thought.
Yeah, there's so much we could talk about, so much from the experience of that day, and I've written about it already, a bit of a reflection piece, talking about Rene Slagers' press conference, and yeah, her humility continues to just astound me. For someone who came in as permanent manager in January, next month's going to be leading Arsenal into the Champions League final, and she just doesn't care about herself and her role in it. She doesn't think about it like that at all, and it comes across as so genuine. And I just think she's been a remarkable presence. I think it's one of the greatest managerial achievements in the women's game. I can't. I still don't think you can put it into words. The fact that she can win a Champions League, when you look back at where Arsenal were earlier this season, they're the first team that have had to come through the first round of qualifying all the way into the final. They didn't qualify for the Champions League at all last season. They're taking on a Lyon side, the record time winners of the Champions League. They've beaten them in their own backyard when previously the comebacks have come at the Emirates Stadium. Rene said, Daisy, that the key was staying calm. I spoke to Kim Little about that. She says, as captain, they've really worked a lot on that sort of emotional regulation, which I thought was really interesting. And I think that was crucial because you can get carried away. And what really worried me was when Lyon came back so early for the second half. They were out about 5 minutes before Arsenal were. They got into the team huddle for a good couple of minutes, and they were literally lined up in formation, ready to go before Arsenal got on the pitch. Arsenal strolled out and scored, within 30 seconds. It was just ripping up the rule book. We'll have to go through the goals individually, but psychologically, how do you assess this game? Arsenal going to a side like Lyon and just having no fear and enforcing mistakes that Joe Montemurro said he'd never seen from Lyon before.
Yeah, this is the thing that I think has shocked us the most. Wasn't obviously Arsenal, we know what they can do, and we thought it was going to be a difficult game, and it definitely could have been. But I think for me, it's the way that Lyon performed at times. It's just not like them in any way, shape, or form. This is not a side. I thought with Madrid, potentially the lack of experience would show at the Emirates. And like you say, you're doing that on home soil, so you've got that advantage. But Lyon, experienced side. And I thought Wendy Renard coming back in, I think Hegerberg as well played. I think there was a couple of changes and sort of, for me, I think that nullified Lyon and the effect that they had at the Emirates. A lot of the pace was gone, the counter didn't exist, and they threatened more from set pieces than I think they did anything else. I mean, there was a few that went just over the bar towards the end where our heart kind of sunk as Daphne watched it go over. But obviously Daphne coming back in was huge. I don't want to put it on individuals, like you say, because collectively it was a fantastic performance. I think a lot of the comments when Mariona won player of the match was this could have gone to many players. Kim on the day, but I think Mariona got it from the Arsenal or something like that. But there was so many players. I think when we look at the difference in the way that we performed at the Emirates and obviously performed away, Daphne van Domsdijk coming back in was huge. I just thought she just changed the entire structure of the defence, the way that we played, the confidence that we played with. Chloe Kelly as well playing. I mean, everyone just seemed to just relishing the opportunity. And I think the pressure sort of felt like it was on Lyon, and that's really strange because obviously they were ahead. But I think from the get-go, maybe they thought, being at home, potentially getting to this final and what they could achieve, it definitely felt like they were the ones that were under pressure. And I think that there was moments of weakness in the defense, like you say, that you don't usually see. And I wonder if that's where the mentality was wrong for Lyon, is that they maybe felt that the pressure was on them and it wasn't on us. And I can't really understand how Arsenal did that. Like, I know we're a fantastic team. I know we've got great talent and, we can sit and praise everybody, but it really does kind of just blow your mind when you think about it. And I think it's going to take a long time to process how we did it in such a way and the way that we did do it. But, credit to Rene Slagers, like people were saying with the celebrations, it feels like she's just one of the girls, part of the team. She's obviously young, could have played if she hadn't had that injury. So it does feel like that's kind of helped Arsenal a lot. It's probably they felt they can relate to her and she's part of that. And I think at the end she kind of forgot for a second that she was the manager and she just joined in with all the celebrations. But it just shows kind of what great character building that's happening at Arsenal and what we're building in general. And yeah, but it still does kind of feel like, wow, you can't believe that that's happened.
Yeah, to a player, everybody was outstanding,
Yeah.
and you're going to need to be that to beat Barcelona in the final. But Arsenal have shown that they can come very close to perfection, and I think that's really, really important when you're playing Barcelona in 90 minutes for a shot at Champions League glory. You have to be perfect, and Arsenal almost were. On Sunday night, they have the players, they have the belief, they have the mentality to pull this off, and that will be so crucial for them. They've beaten one of the best sides in Europe. They're going to have to do it again and go one better. I think Barcelona are a better side than Lyon. I think that's fairly obvious now after the semi-finals. That this is the toughest team in the competition for a reason. We've seen what they can do to Chelsea. You touched on Daphne. Manny Zinsberger warmed up for basically the entirety of that game. Daphne was playing probably through some sort of pain. The goal kicks by the end were being fluffed a little bit. Leah Williamson took quite a few short. Her ankle, I was told on Tuesday by a source, was black and blue. I am stunned, that she recovered in time to play on Sunday, that she was able to. I'm sure, Arsenal's physios, medical team worked a bit of a miracle just to get her out there and to be in that state. And she made some key saves. But you can go through the whole team and just pick out, like you said, every individual performance. Everybody was just outstanding. Izzy, just quickly on Lyon, you saw sort of their strengths in the first leg. We knew going into the second leg, the fact that Arsenal had to chase the game. We all said Lyon's counter-attacking, that front three, their pace, their directness is going to be so important. Has Joe Montemuro overthought his team selection? I get Renard coming back in, her 500th appearance. I don't think that's a player who you don't play when available. Hegerberg changing, the nature of that front three, dropping De Mornay into midfield. That was really confusing to me.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know whether he was picking Hegerberg because of her kind of years and years of experience in the competition and in winning semi-finals in the Champions League, and maybe thought that she could bring something in the form of leadership or just kind of keeping the team calm and trying to hold on to the lead, which is, I imagine, what they were trying to do from the start. But yeah, I think Arsenal just pressed them really well. We were pressing really, really high. And so they were unable to play out from their defenders and start those quick counterattacks because we were quite often winning the ball back kind of at the start of the midfield. And that really neutralised that threat because if they can't get through to those front three players, they can't do what they do best. And we really, really stopped them from doing that. There wasn't so many times when it would be Demornay Chewinga running down with the ball kind of just taking on these 1v1s because we stopped it before it got to that point. And I think that's a really key example of Rene learning from her mistakes. Not necessarily that the first leg was a mistake because there were good moments, but I think you have to kind of see a team and work them out. And Rene worked them out. And obviously something that they'd practiced was this high press and stopping Lyon's strengths. And the way that Arsenal stepped up and did that was amazing. And I think that's really key thing. I think something going into the final, obviously only one leg, so we can't rely on a big comeback second 90 minutes. But yeah, I think if we go in with a little bit of kind of an idea of what Barcelona's strengths are, maybe more so than we did against Lyon in the first leg, so how we did on Sunday, then I think it's all to play for. But yeah, we really did neutralise the their front three, and that to basically took away their game.
Mm. The early goal, and it's quite clear the timings of the goal. I spoke to Rachel from Girls on the Ball when we were waiting for the press conferences, and she just said, the timings of the goal were so, so crucial. And Adam Salter tweeted that Russo's goal and Mariona's goal, I think it was both 45 minutes and 25 seconds, which is one of my most favourite niche stats because you can think, how on earth does that work? And obviously you factor in added on time. I think that's a really brilliant find from him. But 5 minutes in, probably, I mean, you can pin all goals apart from Mariona's down as Lyon errors, really, and good Arsenal finishes. The first one, Monum's in the right place to cause a bit of chaos. The last touch comes off of Enler, who should deal, of course, with that with the in-swinging corner. I love how Kelly was really sort of getting whistled and booed by the Lyon fans who were making, that atmosphere. I'm not sure who it was who took the corner in there. I think it was Kelly sort of swinging it in. Obviously, she doesn't get credited with the assist for her own goals, which I disagree with. But that was key because from that point, Arsenal don't have to chase the game, Daisy. And they really bossed the first half. They took the game to Lyon. Couple of saves of Van Salah. Little came close. I thought that was a really good save by Enler. But that goal just opened the whole tie up for Arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, a lot of that has come from Lyon errors, but also I think position, Arsenal there to take the chances. The second balls that come, obviously, well, I think the Mariona one does stand out. And I think if we're looking at individual players that have completely changed everything for Arsenal, it's players like Mariona. I know we talk about this every week, but that just showed again. I mean, I've no idea how she managed to find the space to get that shot away, let alone to finish like she did. But you kind of, we I think last season we talked so much repetitively about Arsenal, please take a shot from outside the box or take more opportunities. And then now we've brought this player in who gets the tightest bit of space and is open to just taking that shot on, and in a moment like that as well, on that kind of occasion. That's the kind of players, we talk about her experience and consistency and how she performs, but I mean to put away a chance like that in that moment is just crazy, and in such a good way. And then obviously for I think Ford took the chance on, but had she missed that, we might have been a bit like, because I think Russo was open as well in that moment. But just the confidence, I mean, Russo to finish like that in that moment, Ford to finish like that, it just shows if we didn't have the confidence, if we didn't have the belief, the team togetherness that we have, we wouldn't take those chances. We wouldn't have taken those chances before, and that's what Rene's changed. It's obviously individuals that were being brilliant, but also just the belief that we could do it, and we could, you think in a moment like that, you may feel under pressure, or you may not be able to take your chances. And we saw Van der Donk miss a clear one at the start of the first leg. So it's moments like that that make or break these games, and Arsenal did that effortlessly, and also having that defensive stability to not concede. I know we conceded the one, but we could have. There was all the chances that we could have conceded a penalty check. Like Rene said, after the game, it could have gone their way at the end, and we could have been in a difficult situation, but we weren't, and that just shows. I mean, the way that we've completely transformed our mentality and being able to take on these big occasions. I don't think we would have seen that from the Arsenal at the start of the season or even last season.
Yeah, Lyon had 10 more shots than Arsenal on the night, so they actually did create more in the end. But Arsenal did have more possession, in Lyon's own backyard. I completely agree. I think some of the finishes are just not being put away earlier in the season. It's the big game, the biggest pressure moment. Sometimes as a striker, you almost can't believe you're gifted those opportunities. And Russo and Ford, they were such good finishes. They were so good, and they're probably what they pull off in training week in, week out. But to do that, under that sort of pressure, perhaps the pressure was off in the second half. Perhaps, like all of us watching on, we couldn't believe that, these chances were being gifted up by such a good side. But Arsenal put them away, and they took the game away from Lyon. Izzy, I will come to you, but Daisy, I feel like the stadium just completely deflated when the fourth goal went in. It was a real sort of lull in the atmosphere, and you could really hear the Arsenal fans singing. Was that the moment where everyone suddenly had that belief?
I think this is what I was thinking, and obviously when the Russo goal went in, there was kind of that belief that just because of how we've been playing as well, not necessarily the scoreline, but the way we played throughout. But then I thought back to half time in the concourse. We'd gone, to I think Mariona had scored just before half time, and we were going into it. Now 2-0 up and on the night, and I thought we were all singing and throwing our scarves in the air and dancing and celebrating. And I genuinely believe at that point there was a belief that we'd already done it. And I know maybe you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but there was just that feeling amongst the away support that we were not going to throw this away now. And then you cannot believe that some people hadn't even got back to their seats when that goal went in. It's crazy that it happened so quickly. And like you say, you don't expect that from Lyon. It's not the kind of game that we were expecting all as fans. I was thinking very tight game. We might get a late winner. We might, we might go to extra time, and then all of a sudden you're 4-0 up, thinking that you can't believe that this is happening. But I definitely think there was a belief throughout the entire game, before the game, half time, that we were going to do this no matter what it takes, and it never felt like it was out of our reach. So I think it's interesting. But yeah, the Lyon fans were definitely had their moments of making noise. I think when the ball came somewhat near to their own box and they were creating opportunities, they were loud, they were, like you say, they were making atmosphere when Arsenal were nearby or when a decision didn't go their way. I thought the referee had a fantastic game, and even the Lyon fan said the same thing after. She was brilliant. She let the game flow, and I think it benefited both teams in the fact that we obviously both teams like to attack, and a lot of stop starting like there was at the Emirates definitely impacted the way that the teams played. So I definitely think that helps, and you've got to give credit to her as well in that. But yeah, all in all, I think everything kind of went Arsenal's way, and in a sense, you don't really believe it because things like that don't tend to happen in football. But you do get those moments where it just feels like kind of a miracle that you're actually witnessing this in such a manner, and not just winning, but winning in style.
Yeah, I spoke to Tim Stillman after the game, and he said sort of the minute he knew Lyon were a bit flustered and a bit not confident was the amount of throwing themselves to the floor in the penalty area. And I completely agree. I think the referee, the amount of times she just waved to get up, that VAR appeal at the end, it was just a real, just complete desperation. I can't remember who the player was. I think she was under pressure from Williamson, and just threw herself onto the floor. And the referee got all the big calls right. Her positioning was really good. She was in the right place, to have a good view. And that was just about all Lyon offered. Izzy, I want to touch on Arsenal's defensive effort because Katie McCabe was everywhere. She was up and down. She worked so hard. Steph Catley, you think of her being caught out in the first leg for the opening goal, barely put a foot wrong. Leah Williamson, a monster in the air. I thought she played really well to keep Hegerberg quiet. And Emily Fox as well, who I know Daisy will, put a smile on your face, but her 50th Arsenal appearance, she was just outstanding. That back line as a whole, where you look back to, I know it was changed, but you think some of the goals Arsenal let in, the mistakes when they lost to Bayern Munich in the opening group game, the mistakes in Hecken, in Gothenburg for Hecken away, when Arsenal lost that game 1-0. Again, and I think probably Lyon have played into their hands with the team they've put out, as we mentioned, but there were still Chewinga, Demorne, and Diani on the pitch with the addition of a Ballon d'Or winner. It's no easy feat to keep them out like Arsenal did. I just think that was another brilliant effort from Arsenal's defence.
Yeah, 100%. They felt reliable and they felt secure and safe to watch on that day, because I know sometimes, I've said it before, they like to go a bit higher, and it's a bit kind of unrelaxing for the viewers. But I noticed on Sunday that they were going back a lot quicker, a lot earlier, and getting into position, and they were prepared for that counter attack when it did come. And I just think it worked really, really well. And I really like how Rene always puts a kind of good emphasis on how important it is for Arsenal to celebrate the defence and the clean sheets. I know it wasn't a clean sheet, but I mean, I don't think anyone's thinking about that one goal, to be honest. But kind of how important that was as a unit on the day, because yeah, they were amazing. And the headers away from the box, Lyon had so many crosses, and they really couldn't get anything from them. I mean, it was just ridiculous, especially with all their height and the pace of the balls that were going across, and it was often on the counter attack. But yeah, the Arsenal defensive line did so well. As you said, Leah Williamson in the air. Katie McCabe was able to get it out of tight situations quite often, which was brilliant to watch. And yeah, Steph Catley, she's such a workhorse at the back, isn't she? Always sweeping up the balls when they go astray. As you said earlier, I think it was great to have Daphne back. But yeah, I did sort of notice her limping in the last kind of 15-20 minutes. So I wonder whether we'll see a bit more Manu in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, amazing to watch and relaxing to watch, because sometimes it's a different story. But yeah, incredible performance. I mean, everyone on the pitch was, so you can't fault anyone, to be honest.
I've got to give a minute or two for Mariona's goal. It's one of the best goals I think I've ever seen in terms of the context of the game. I was texting you, Izzy, and we were both saying, Arsenal have got to strike while the iron is hot now. Lyon can only be better in the second half. I'll hold my hands up and say I got that one wrong. But that was just a stunning goal. How she sorted her feet out to then find the angle to get the shot away. I know, Daisy, you were up quite high in the stadium. The press box was up quite high as well. And, when a shot like that comes in, it's quite hard to sort of gauge where it's going, how high up it is, whether it's going wide or over the crossbar. But almost it was one of them. The second it left her foot, you just thought hello, and it was right up into the top corner. Racing away in celebration afterwards. And that is the mark of a Champions League winner who rises to these big occasions. We've said it about her all season. She is without doubt my player of the season, unless anything major happens in the last few games and the Champions League final, of course. But Daisy, your view of that goal, it's just outstanding. I tweeted the Spanish commentary as well yesterday morning because they give it the full Spanish treatment, which is absolutely fantastic as well. If you haven't found that, it's over on my Twitter. It's just a brilliant piece of commentary. But that, I mean, she scored a few crackers this season, but you just can't put that into words.
It's just another level, and I think it's not ridiculous to stand here and say that if Arsenal do manage to beat Barcelona, that she would absolutely be up for the Ballon d'Or. I think this is the conversation that was happening on social media yesterday. We talked about it a lot, and obviously when someone is your player, you see a lot of them and you think they're fantastic. But we even had rival fans that were looking at that probably and thinking, wow, like it's going to be very interesting when she comes up against Barcelona because they know her, they know her strengths. I think she's playing a different role now to what she was playing there. Obviously, we've seen Rene completely transform her into that deeper role and still have such an impact, in attack as well. It's actually crazy that she can do everything that she does in any position that you ask her to play. You ask her to score, you ask her to come back and defend, you ask her to control the game, to break the line with passes. I think maybe when she signed, we talked about how she went under the radar at Barcelona, and that's just because of the amount of talent that they have. But if looking at it now, and obviously the talent that Barcelona still have, she has to have been one of the standouts out of that. And maybe coming into this Arsenal side, it's taking them to a new level, and especially on the European stage. But she can also do it week in, week out, stay fit, play as many minutes as we ask her to play. I just can't believe the how tight it was. I mean, every time Mariona gets the ball at the edge of the box, we shout shoot. We shouted shoot in that moment, not thinking that she actually was going to and obviously going to score that. But it's just having that kind of presence in the team that you can't. Arsenal can't go without her now, and you have to keep her fit if you want any chance of being able to be successful, especially against a team that she knows. And I'm very interested to see if she does manage to get a goal in that final, if she chooses to celebrate on a big stage, or if she, spending 10 years at Barcelona, maybe chooses not to. So I'm very interested in that one, and hopefully we'll see her there, and hopefully she'll continue to perform the rest of the season like she has.
Kit Shepherd, the Times' women's football journalist, tweeted he was still at Stamford Bridge and he said he heard a big cheer when Mariona scored, and it was the Barcelona players. So, which is really lovely, still celebrating her and celebrating a moment of brilliance. Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. I don't think we're ever going to get bored of watching that goal. Izzy, a word for Rene Slagers then. And I know you've been debating with me, is she going to go for the suit in the Champions League final? How's she going to change that up? But how impressed are you, for her basically taking over for most of this Champions League campaign, steadying the ship in the WSL, getting Arsenal back up? But the cup competitions have been a problem. Arsenal, still sing about being the only British side to win the Champions League. They haven't won the WSL, since 2018-19. They have underperformed in recent years. Not many people would have expected this to be in with a shot of winning the greatest prize in European football under firstly, an interim manager, a young manager, a former academy player. She's not had a full transfer window yet. Where Arsenal were in the season. I know I spoke about how big an achievement it is, but how would you sum up, her achievements in just getting Arsenal this far?
I just think it's amazing. She's so great. I've seen quite a lot of her in the last kind of few weeks, and she's just always so humble, as you said, and she really, really celebrates players who've had a good performance or the team as a whole. She'll say something nice about someone, and then she'll make sure to really mention everybody else. She's just given everyone that incredible confidence, and I think you can't kind of teach that in someone. I think it's just something that she has within her. Just maybe it's her humility, or just, you know, the way she talks to them, or maybe because she's young and she is relatable to the players. I'm not sure what it is, but she's just instilled this belief in the team. And I love the videos that Arsenal have been releasing, where you get a little snippet of her dressing room talks before
Mm.
the matches, and I think she's, you know, it's very inspiring, and I think she's just been fantastic. And yeah, the domestic cup competitions haven't gone well, but I think at one point we thought we were looking at a season where we might come third or fourth in WSL, and that was it. So this is incredible. If anyone had been told that we'd even be in a semi-final at this point in the season, no one would have believed you back in that game away at Bayern Munich. So I think this is just a fantastic achievement. I don't know if she's the first person to in her first season to kind of take a team to a final, but, or I guess the Barcelona managers
Yeah.
as well. But yeah, absolutely incredible. I saw something that said that she was playing in the Arsenal academy when Arsenal won the last European trophy in 2007. So it's really full circle for her, and I'm sure she's really proud of herself and the team, even though she doesn't talk about herself very nice. Like, she doesn't celebrate herself publicly, but she's amazing. I don't know whether I want her to wear the suit or not at this point, because I don't want to change tradition and switch it up. I got a bit nervous when Frida Marnham's gloves came off and into the match, so I think I'm maybe being a bit superstitious. But yeah, she's been fantastic, and hopefully she can continue this kind of form into the final and the rest of the season.
Yeah, I spoke to NOS or NOS Sport, who are a Dutch news outlet, yesterday. Sort of rang them from Lyon Airport, and they just wanted to really delve into sort of Rene's impact and her psychology. And I know we've got a few Dutch listeners, plenty of Dutch Arsenal fans, so that link is up. I'll put that in the description as well. A really interesting piece. They sort of see shades of Serena Wiegman, but also talking about her was sort of Ivane slot in terms of the humility and sort of coming into a team that maybe didn't need loads of changes, but made, you know, subtle tweaks, and thought that was a really interesting conversation to have. I'll be hearing from her in a moment, ahead of Arsenal against Aston Villa. I'll be at Villa Park tomorrow. I don't think there's much to talk about in terms of that game at the moment. Rotation will be quite interesting, I guess. But Daisy, I'd love to just get into the away end now. For the full-time whistle, Lumi took a brilliant video that's up on the Gooners Facebook page and her TikTok of sort of those full-time scenes. You were up in the gods. Talk me through that full-time whistle, but then also the interactions with the players. You know, so many of them were also showed that humility, going over and you know, shaking hands with the Lyon players before then going over and celebrating. But just talk me through it, and then also, you know, going out and enjoying yourself, as I know you did after that as well.
Yeah, sort of a sneaky appearance in Lumi's video. You can kind of just about see me to the right of. Obviously, I was sat next to her, which was great. That kind of worked out really well. But there's just this. I mean, even before, you know, the full-time whistle went, there was such a sense of confidence amongst the fans, and disbelief definitely. But also now we could start with the chance of kind of just confidence, and just kind of winding up the other fans like you do, and winding Chelsea up. But it definitely felt at that point like this was surreal moment, but it was really happening. And then the whistle went, and it took a moment to kind of process, but everyone just kind of jumped on top of each other, and even moving from there down a million stairs, it felt like concrete steps down from the top block to outside, and it turned into another fan walk again. And as we walked past the Lyon fans, they were clapping, they were taking their hats off, they were putting their scarves in the air. Honestly, I have complete respect for the Lyon fans that we met along the way. They joined us in the pub afterwards. We had a few come up to us and say, we really hope that you beat Barcelona. We know, we think you're incredible. Even before the game, the fan walk in, they were sort of clapping us as we walked past, and I think that's just a huge respect from them as a fan base. And I've got loads of time for Lyon fans, and obviously speaking to them. Yeah, I didn't actually go to the coach, but I know a lot of the fans headed down there, and got to sort of wave, and ended up on Katie and Caitlin's story and social media and things like that, which was really, really cool. But I ended up back at the pub, and I bumped into Chloe Kelly's husband, and I said, you know, please do us a favour and tell her that we really want her to stay, because you can just see from their reaction and individual players' reactions. I think some of my friends spoke to Alessia Russo's parents as well. So even the parents and family and friends joining us in the pub after. Obviously, I think the players jetted off back, but there was so many there, and a travelling support, not just from Arsenal fans, but just the collective nature of the friends and family of the players as well, which I think not many clubs can say that they have that, and we've really built something special. And celebrations, yeah, all night in a fantastic city, fantastic, venue. The bar was right next to the stadium, so it didn't take very long, and I was leading the way from the stadium to the bar, scarves in air and everything. So it was just one of those moments where you don't really feel like you're there, and it just feels like you can't believe it. It is a dream, and if you can imagine that 500 fans went to Lyon, I'll be very excited to see what we can bring to Lisbon, and I'm really looking forward to that. But we've still got some games, in the league to go before then, and I'm sure that what the Arsenal fans are like. They'll find a way to be in Birmingham at 6 p.m. tomorrow night, and I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to two huge games after that as well. So it does feel like it's a long way now until the Champions League final, but it's going to be fantastic, and I can only imagine we're going to get more support than you'll ever seen. And Barcelona, who I think also bring a fantastic fan base, so I'm really interested to see how we, combine with them in the final. So looking forward to that.
Ah, yeah, beautifully put. Oh, emotional again. Yeah, lovely. And lovely to hear about that from the Lyon fans as well. And I think that's exactly, how that's how football should be played, how football supporters, should be, because the better team won. What that means for Lyon and Joe Montemurro, we'll have to see. And, I'm sure it's a ground we'll be back to in the future with the success of both of these clubs, hopefully. You touched on Villa Park. Leif will be there tomorrow. He'll be selling our new women's print edition of the Guna fanzine. Thank you to the fans who came and bought one in the pre-match meetup. Lovely to see so many familiar faces there as well, and people who came over and introduced themselves and said hello. Really just a brilliant trip. I know we weren't there for long, for only one night. We were on the early flight and then the mid-afternoon flight on Monday. I saw a couple of videos of pilots, some of the other flights, saying well done to Arsenal women. It's just, it's lovely, and I think it's just seeing the whole Arsenal community, I feel like, watch this game, even people with a very casual interest in the women's team. And Mikel Arteta again saying they've sort of shown the pathway to the final. They're inspirational. And we talk a lot about the one club mentality, but it is remarkable, Izzy, how much the 2 seasons have almost aligned between Arsenal men and Arsenal women. I don't feel nervous for tonight yet. We're recording this on Tuesday ahead of the PSG first leg, because I think I'm still buzzing from Sunday. But I think it's lovely to see that Mikel Arteta and the men's team have really taken this interest. And how could you not, because of how incredible this campaign has been for Arsenal women.
Yeah, I know. And as you said, the seasons have been really, really parallel. No domestic trophies, probably going to come second in the leagues, and then just have had this amazing run in the Champions League, which is crazy. And I'm really looking forward to tonight. And yeah, it sounds like all the players have said how proud they are of the girls, and they all, a lot of them watched it, and it was very inspiring. And I think that's really nice, because it's just great to see the support coming, through the club, because I know that all the women's team will probably be watching tonight as well. So it's yeah, it's going to be a big couple of big May for the club, which is very exciting. We could have two Champions League finals against two Barcelona sides, which could be crazy. But yeah, fantastic to see Mikel Arteta kind of speaking publicly and saying that he's impressed with the team, and I know Rene's mentioned that she gets messages from him and some of the players after big successes. So hopefully that's been going on. But yeah, it's all very communal down at the training ground, isn't it? So I'm sure there's been lots of kind of celebration, and whilst focusing on tasks at hand.
Yeah, it was nice being in the mix zone after. One of the coaches came over and, said hello to myself, Tim, and Sylvain, sort of the Arsenal journalists out there, and just said, right, on to Tuesday night. That was all he cared about. We're talking about whether we could beat PSG, and it is amazing. What time to be an Arsenal fan at the moment. Both sides sort of battling through adversity. It was a very fun mix zone to be a part of as well. Sort of the players walking through, celebrating. Michelle Kang walked through at one point with a face like thunder. And Lyon had organised a DJ to play a set in the ground, pumping the music out after full time. I hope he still got paid because he still turned up and did his thing, but to an empty stadium. So I wonder if that was a slight bit of overconfidence from the home side because there was a party going on, but the only people enjoying it were the Arsenal players who had hung around and were waiting to get on the coach afterwards. I spoke to Kim Little after full time. The previous time I spoke to her this season was when she was the only Arsenal player we asked to speak to after the Häcken defeat, the 1-0 defeat, and this time she's coming out after reaching a Champions League final. Rene Slagers was asked about her afterwards. She praised her. The French translation was then made by the translator next to her, and then Rene actually said, "Hang on a little bit more," and then continued her answer to talk about how the players and Leah Williamson sort of earmarked Kim for praise and to talk about how much this means to her. I mean, she is the humble, understated, captain. People think Leah Williamson's the captain, whether that's fans or the national media, because Kim Little just gets on with it. She is, so out of the public eye, and you look at the increased sort of public nature of women's football now. But Daisy, an incredible performance. I feel like she can come under criticism for her age. She has underperformed at times this season. I think the last couple of months she's been outstanding, alongside Mariona Caldente in midfield. But there are so many people who this win will mean so much to, and I think Kim Little is right up there. How would you pay tribute to her? She'll be leading her side out in a Champions League final next month.
I just can't believe that she hasn't done that before. And I think Leah spoke about it, didn't she, with international and how it's not always fallen her way with Scotland obviously leaving and deciding to dedicate so much time to domestic football. We always see these stories that come out and she rarely speaks to the media in that way or rarely shares her life, but everyone else talks about her in such a way that I think the most we've seen was obviously with the contract extension and a little bit about kind of the history. But even then, she was shy and like you say, humble and didn't want to talk about a bit like Rene Slagers, really. I imagine they have that in common, and that's why they continuously just praise each other instead. But if you just really can't ask for more in a captain, I think she doesn't need to be the center of attention. She doesn't want to be. She doesn't care that maybe she probably doesn't mind that, sometimes people get that wrong and think it is Leah or anything like that. But Leah's one of the biggest fans of Kim Little, I think. And if you look around the club, I think there was a moment that she had with Leah Volti after the game that somebody filmed where her and Kim just hugged for about 10 minutes and nobody bothered them. They just allowed them to have that moment. Those players that have been at the club for so long understand more than anyone what this means, and no other than those two have obviously been there quite a while, but more so to Kim. Even her getting an emotional is something because we don't usually see that side of her. But look, what a fantastic human being, and maybe she's not the loudest, maybe she's not the biggest character, and she doesn't, like you say, she doesn't need to be in the media all the time, but she, fans of the club who have been following for a while, who follow from at home or come to the games or see her, they know what kind of player she is. And it's often other people who feel like maybe the newer fans who see like the younger players coming through like Kyra Cooney-Cross and think that place is just guaranteed, not over someone like Kim who puts the work in. They say she's the first to training and the last to leave, and that's just kind of what more could Arsenal really want from a captain. And we could go all day about Kim Little, I think, and say so much more, but really I think she knows, and she knows how much she's respected by the fans and how much she loves the club and how much we love her. So yeah, I'm sure she feels that, and that's probably why the emotions kind of hit as well.
Yeah, such an emotional night, and I think it's just whatever happens in the final, we will always have that night in Lyon. Everybody there has this now as a game they will never forget, a game where they will tell people, I was there. It's one that's going to mean a lot to me, I'm sure, in terms of covering that going forward, being in such a great stadium, and yeah, it's hard to put into words. It's going to take a while to sink in, but I really think, however Arsenal perform in this final, whether they win it or they lose it, this will never be forgotten, and this needs to be recognised for the achievement that it is. And we can do that sort of until the final, but we will always have Sunday night in Lyon, and I think that's so special, the manner of the winner and what it means to everyone. Izzy, any final thoughts? You've booked your tickets. You both have to Lisbon, but I'm sure you were gutted to miss out. But what does this win mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, I decided not to go to Lisbon because it was expensive, and I said if we go to get through, sorry, to go to Lyon because it was expensive, and I always said if we get through to the final, I'm saving my money and I'll do Lisbon. So I'm really pleased that the team have done it because I'm so excited to go to a Champions League final. And it's just incredible. It just doesn't happen very often. I think that'll be a really emotional day going on my own. So I'll be joining in with supporters club Daisy coming to find you lot. But yeah, I mean, how exciting! And I think Lisbon's supposed to be a really cool city as well. So I've got 2 nights booked. I just can't believe it. It was such an achievement for the team. I'm so happy for everyone. Having been at the Emirates for in the press box for the quarterfinals and the semi-finals, it's just really cool to have kind of seen it through, to be honest. And I played a tiny part in the press and speaking to some of the players afterwards. And I'm just so excited about it. I can't believe it. Looking forward to tonight. Hopefully the men can do it too. Double Champions League win. Excited for the bus parade already.
Yeah, just amazing. I think this is just means so much to all of us, but I think for all of us at the Gooner as well. I look at our two print fanzines this season with Rene Slagers and Chloe Kelly on the front. That we've never predicted those two to be our cover stars at the start of the season, and I just think that sums everything up. But Daisy, for you to be out there, I'm sure this has been such a special time for you. Izzy watching on and your impact in the Gooner, our star January signing, a bit like Chloe Kelly, we're going to be keeping you on permanently if we can. Leif
Thanks.
watching on from home. All of those traveling Arsenal fans, some of them, someone tweeted me earlier saying they drove from the Netherlands, a couple who drove up from Italy through the middle of the night, driving back, after full time, the highest number to travel out from the UK. It's just so special. And everybody who has traveled far and wide and maybe not had the joy that they were able to experience on Sunday night, they were all rewarded, and all those watching on from home as well. And I'm so proud, from our standpoint of the Gooner to mention Lumi as well with her video content and bringing the game to life in the away end. I'm so pleased, I really am, and I hope everybody's enjoyed the coverage as much as we have, putting it together. Because we do work hard for this, and some nights you are just rewarded, some more than others, and Sunday was just incredible. We've got to wrap up now because I'm going to be listening to Rene Slagers, I'm sure playing down what she achieved on Sunday once again. I will see some of you at Villa Park tomorrow, and then the season, well, I thought it was coming to a quick end, but that win on Sunday's just elongated it a little bit longer for good reason. Izzy and Daisy, thank you so much for sharing your experiences talking about the game, and I will see you both soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers, Freddie. Thank you.